I asked you what the host of this party was going to be serving up today. What's the drink of choice tonight?
Well, I'm not promoting it, but I like some old cold beer. I think I'm going to have one. I'm not promoting it.
Maybe a little bit more difficult to find a cold beer in Provo, but the Razorbacks are coming back to Fayetteville with a victory over the BYU Cougars. We're going to break it all down as well as talk about Sam Pittman answering the call. And into the bye week we go here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Out of Bounds. You can catch every weekday afternoon from 1 to 4 on 103.7 The Buzz and 103.7thebuzz.com. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. It's always a lot more fun whenever the Razorbacks win. And I know a lot of you made the trip out to Provo. I was one of those, and that was one of the reasons why I was unable to do the podcast late last week. Had some technical difficulties that I will not get into because it'll just make me mad again. But either way, Arkansas wins the game on the road against BYU by a final score of 52-35. And it was honestly a really beautiful game, and for a lot of different reasons, on which we'll break down and talk about and have some fun with, and try to give some indication of, what it meant and everything. And so, but first off, I want to go into just the quick reactions from the game and just the quick observations from it. This is the type of game, honestly, that if Arkansas is going to win the rest of the season, this is how the games are going to look. This is how Arkansas is going to have to win games going forward. I think we've recognized that now for quite a while. But you're going to have to go out and score a ton of points and just come up with 2 or 3 stops, maybe 2 or 3 turnovers, however it needs to happen, and just score the football at will. Doing it on the ground, through the air, however, this is the recipe for it. And you gave up 35 points to BYU. You gave up over 350 yards passing to Jaron Hall and 3 touchdowns. He did throw 1 interception. But if you look at the other games that Arkansas has won this year, it's kind of the same thing. Kind of reminded me almost of like the Missouri State game in a way. Their quarterback had a ton of passing yards and everything, but you kept them from running the ball. In this game, BYU had only 115 yards rushing, 3.8 yards a carry. That was it. And you, as an offense, went out there and absolutely destroyed them in both passing and in rushing. Rocket Sanders, of course, had a huge game, career high for rushing attacks. 15 carries for 175 yards and 2 touchdowns. I was averaging 11.7 yards a carry. Not too bad. Even A.J. Green had a nice game, 11 carries for 51 yards. KJ ran for 10 times for 32 yards. And so you were averaging close to 7 yards a pop on the ground, which, as we know, is a recipe for Arkansas success. And as we know, that they're always going to have at least a puncher's chance of winning the game as long as they take care of business in that regard. But the other side of it, too, is not only did you have a great rushing attack, but the passing game for our king, KJ Jefferson, 29 of 40, 367 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions as well. And the most impressive thing, I believe, about KJ's game is not only his decision-making and all of that and, not making mistakes, but also in the fact that not one receiver had over 100 yards. Now, Matt Landers had a phenomenal game. He had nearly 100 yards. He had 99 with 3 touchdowns. Didn't have a touchdown all season, but got 3 in this game. That was awesome. But you had Knox with 66 yards. You had Hazelwood with 42. Dubinion with 40. Keatron Jackson with 55. A.J. Green with 45. So you were really sharing the football in the passing game to where it wasn't just one player killing it or one player going for just a big gainer. You were very methodically throwing out different passes, different routes, different play calls to all different players. And so I believe offensively and defensively, this is just the way it's going to be. This is the type of game that you're going to play. Not to say that you're going to be fine giving up 350 yards through the air, but this is what this team is. And so it was just nice to see them not only fight through some adversity, not only, have some get punched in the mouth a couple of times and bounce back, but also find some consistency in the offensive game as well. But, Arkansas still has some things. There were still, too many penalties. Some of them I don't know were all warranted, especially considering, some of the pass interference calls I wasn't a huge fan of. But Arkansas had a few things that happened that was really beneficial. Like, for instance, they went 6 of 7 on red zone chances, and the only one they missed was on that final drive with, seconds left where they're unable to put it in. Should have put it in, but they didn't. But you converted when you were in the red zone. You controlled the clock. You did have 7 penalties for 98 yards. It's a lot of yards, but I think like half of those penalties were pass interference, if not more than half. But you also had, if you just look at the total offensive yards, if you want to do the math on it, that's just stupid for 644 yards. 644 yards. You were averaging nearly 8 yards per play. So just a great performance overall to get back into the win column, and the importance of it was vital. And I think that there's just a few observations that you can take from this game and breaking it down and kind of giving the feeling of, what went right. First off, we know that KJ Jefferson, when he's in the game, he changes everything. He changes everything when he's in the game. Nothing against Malik or any of those guys, but there's a reason why KJ's QB1. And there's a reason why things change, whether in the red zone or whether you're, on 3rd and long, whatever it may be. There's a reason why defenses have trouble in this game. Arkansas converted, I think, 12 of 15 on 3rd down. Disgusting. Disgustingly great, but disgusting. So KJ being in the game just gives you so many different options, and that's why he's QB1. That's why he's your best chance of winning and a best chance of having a great offensive game. And it's just great to have him back. If you would have had him against Mississippi State, do I think Arkansas would have won? I don't think so. I think Mississippi State's offense kind of had your way with you. But would you have been in a better position? I think so. Absolutely. And it just shows you the difference that KJ Jefferson makes. So it was great to see him back and looking good. 5 touchdown passes, and can't ask anything more than that. Rocket Sanders fumbled early. He's had issues with holding on to the ball at times this year. I think that he honestly has, 4 fumbles this year, maybe 3 or 4. I know of 3 at least. Missouri State, Alabama, and now BYU. But he makes up for it when he comes back out and has a great game like he did. So that was really good to see, him bounce back after, fumbling the ball, putting it on the turf, and getting it going. So you have that. And defensively, honestly, my boy Hudson Clark, the no-fly zone, had a great game. Yeah, he had an interception, and which was huge. And honestly, that's kind of the thing with the defense, where they had times where this year where they've had opportunities to get turnovers or, interceptions or, or on 4th down, get a turnover on downs, whatever it may be. And they have failed at it. Like, they have been unable to convert on it. And in this game, you saw them get the ball on or have a turnover on downs on BYU when it was 4th and short where they fumbled it, which led to a score for Arkansas. You had the pick by Hudson Clark. Then you had the fumble there late, also by BYU, recovered by Hudson Clark. And it's just amazing how those things happen, the advantages it gives you to be able to make a score, make a play, and change the entire way of the game. And that's why it's just, you got to take advantage of them. You got to be able to make those plays. Because like against Mississippi State, I know I keep bringing it up because it's 2 weeks ago, but still, it's like you look at that game and the amount of missed opportunities to get picks, like how many times they hit it in the defender's hands. What changes in that game if Arkansas holds on to half of those? How does that change everything and gives you momentum, puts you in a great field position, whatever it may be? It changes things. So in this game, it changed things, and it's like, there it is. Like, that's how you do it. Like, this team's going to give up a lot of passing yards. That's true. They're going to go up against some really good teams the rest of the way, really good offenses. That's true. But Arkansas's offense is good enough when it's clicking on all cylinders. By the way, I thought Kendall Ross called his best game of the year. When it's clicking on all cylinders, it's amazing how beautiful it is and how effective it is and how tough it is to stop. And then defensively, if you're not going to stop the pass, but if you can just get some turnovers, have some just little stops here and there. You don't have to stop them all the time, but just little stops here and there to put the offense in position. This is the type of result that you see from it. So it's just amazing to me how everything changes when you just are able to convert on those opportunities or those mistakes by the other team and go out there and win. And that's what Arkansas did in this game. Just a really good moment, really good game for Arkansas, and really, honestly, needed it so desperately. And honestly, you got to give a lot of credit to Sam Pittman, which we'll talk about him here in just a second. But first, folks, the numbers don't lie. In the last decade, over 4 million people have chosen Simply Safe Home Security to protect their home. You don't have to earn the trust of that many people without doing something right. So at Simply Safe, your safety is the only thing that matters. I know because I use Simply Safe in my home. They protect you with cutting-edge security technology powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back. And here's why I love it. Anytime that I'm gone, I was gone in Provo. I was over there in Utah. And I know that when I left, my dog Rowdy was in good hands. My podcasting equipment was in good hands. You know, my furniture, my appliances, everything that I value in my life that I own in my possession was taken care of because I knew Simply Safe was going to be there for me if anything happened. So with 24/7 professional monitoring, Simply Safe agents call you the moment that there is a threat detected and dispatch police and first responders in an emergency, even if you're not home or if you can't be reached. So customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/lockedoncollege. Save 20% on your Simply Safe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your very first month for free. Visit Simply Safe. That's SIMPLISAFE.com/lockedoncollege to learn more. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, continuing on with the Locked On Razorbacks podcast, I want to give a huge shout out to Sam Pittman and the coaching staff of answering the call. I did a podcast last week talking about a defining moment for Sam Pittman. And a lot of you agreed, and some of you just didn't understand what I was saying, as I found out. But it was a defining moment for Sam Pittman and this staff to go into this game and not only be able to play well, but be able to win this game if you wanted to really save the season, if you will. You're 4-3 right now. You were 4-3 last year heading into the bye. You're 4-3 again this year. No one's saying that that's great. No one's saying that that's what above what everybody thought. But you got 5 games left on your schedule where if you win just 2 of them, you're in a bowl game, and you still have opportunities in front of you to even have a better season than what you had last year. It's just a matter of how you come up with it. But Sam Pittman, and you know, he came under fire. There was a lot of criticisms getting thrown his way, and people were very upset. You know, you just look at the comment section on our podcast on the YouTube page, and you can see how upset people were last week with the performance by Arkansas against Mississippi State, performance by coordinators, coaches, and everybody like that. And Sam Pittman, you know, he pays attention to it. In fact, here's a funny clip at the end of his press conference after the BYU game, and he kind of put a lot of things into perspective and kind of where he was at with it as well.
Oh, my God. Could you imagine getting on that plane, we're losing? Oh, my Lord. Hearing how terrible I am and all that. I mean, and how bad I need to fire KB and all this kind of, come on. The man scored 50. We scored 52. I'm not getting into that. But what I am getting into is I'm so happy that we won, and I'm going to get on that plane with my beautiful wife and our team and enjoy the heck out of it. We're off tomorrow, and I'm off. And I don't know what I'm going to do. I need to go to church, but I don't know what I'm going to do. But I know what I'm not doing, and I'm not going in the office. We're off.
So Sam Pittman talks about going into just the bye week and how he's approaching it. I love his comments of just I'm off, knowing that I'm going to enjoy the win. And he does this in the most Sam Pittman way of responding to a lot of the criticisms that was thrown his way, that's thrown Kendall Briles' way, that was thrown to everybody's way, of saying how bad he is, how bad he sucks, and firing Kendall Briles. And it's just funny because, again, I saw so many posts too that were talking about Kendall Briles in this game. I'm like, if you criticize Kendall Briles after this game, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. And like, there's a lot of things wrong with this team that you can name, but that's not one of them. Anyways, Sam Pittman he sees things. He understands things. He knows how fans feel. He may not always respond to them in the way that some people may be used to, or maybe other coaches want to respond. But overall, that's how he does it. That's how he feels about it, and that's honestly the way it is with him and how he approaches coaches and fans and all that stuff too. But you got to give a lot of credit. Like, it could have been easily going awry. It could have been completely spiraling out of control. This team, you've lost the team. You've lost the will to win. You've lost all this and that and the other. This team is horrible. Like, there could have been all of this stuff going on. Going into BYU on the road, you could have limped into the bye week and not had any sort of performance worth feeling good about. But you didn't. This team didn't. This staff didn't. They went out there and they won the game. Now, they gave up a lot of points. Like, it wasn't like, a perfect game, a dominant game even, at least not in the defensive type of thing. But you needed a game like this where not only you win, but you do some things that you struggled with, like getting turnovers defensively. You opened up the passing game and really made them pay. You were able to run the ball effectively and consistently throughout the entire time. You had good special teams plays. You had good punts. Yeah, you had a lot of penalty yards, but your penalties actually were scaled back a bit. And again, I didn't agree with some of those penalties. You played better. That 3-game losing streak was tough, but you played better. And honestly, that's all we can ask for at this point in time, is just getting better. Just get better. Get better from here on out. It's not going to be easy. It's never is in the SEC. But considering all the injuries that Arkansas had in the secondary, which we'll talk about in the bye, considering, the way that people were viewing this team and talking about this team and talking about this coaching staff, they went out there and they just blocked it all out and got it done. And so to me, that deserves a lot of credit to Sam Pittman. To me, that shows a coach that, he may not always be perfect. He may not win a national championship at Arkansas. Like, we don't know really the ceiling of Sam Pittman. But we do know that no matter what, his teams are always going to go out there and play their hardest. Like, they're not going to give up. They're not going to quit. They're not going to feel sorry for themselves. They're not going to start doubting themselves. They're not going to start saying, woe is me, all is bad, whatever. This team is always going to go out and give it their all. They don't always win, but they're going to give it their all. And I love that about the team. Sometimes you wish that things like, you look back at that A&M game, you could be 5-2 right now. You should be 5-2 right now, at the least 5-2, but you're not. You're 4-3. But you got chances in front of you. You got opportunities in front of you. You can switch everything around. But I just feel like there's a lot of credit that needs to be thrown to Sam Pittman's way. He's still got 5 games left, and a lot of things can change, but this team continues to play hard. Where you see other teams in college football that had high expectations or went through a stretch of rough play, and it's all bad. Everything's bad. People are jumping ship. Everyone's talking about how bad the coaching staff is. Some guys are getting fired. Whatever it may be, not at Arkansas. Not at Arkansas. And I love that, and I hope it stays that way for a very, very long time. BetOnline.net is your number one source for football betting info this season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game that you find. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all of your sports wagering information, with live betting up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more at BetOnline, where the game starts.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Into the bye week we go. Finally, get there. I mean, this was probably the most important thing about this game, is not only winning it, but getting into the bye week to get everybody healthy, which Sam Pittman even said after the game that he believes all the people besides the 2 guys who are out for the season with Catalan and Ladarius Bishop, besides those 2 guys, everybody that's been hurt will be back for Auburn next Saturday on the road. Luke Slusher, Jaden Johnson, all those guys will be back. And this is where it gets very curious to me. I don't want to try to start giving out any false hope or start trying to feel any certain way about it or feeling too good about it. But honestly, I look at Arkansas's health situation and how impactful it's been this year. Like, there's no ifs, ands, buts about it. It's been extremely impactful. They've dealt with injuries probably more so in the secondary than anybody else in the country. So now when you hear Sam Pittman say, we expect everybody to be back for Auburn, that starts to make you say, okay, so if they get everybody back and the secondary is actually better against an Auburn team that offensively isn't very good, maybe we can make this work. Maybe we can beat Auburn on the road. And not only that, but maybe we could win the majority of our games left on our schedule, because what's been the biggest issue? The secondary. Well, the secondary gets healthy. What could happen in the last 5 games? What could happen last year after the bye week? Arkansas was playing their best football. Still lost to Alabama, but only by a touchdown. It was the only game they lost at the end of last season. What if they do that again? Something similar. But wait, Bama's not left on the schedule, is it? In fact, almost most of the teams left on the schedule are pretty winnable games. Ole Miss will be the most difficult one, but you have that one at home, and Ole Miss's defense can't stop anybody, so maybe you could outscore them. Starts to make you really think. Starts to get you a little bit of hope, a little bit of feel good about it, a little bit of confidence, a little pep in your step of saying, you know what, maybe, just maybe this can get turned around and really be great. I mean, could they go 5-0 in the last 5 games? Be a stretch, be tough. But are you telling me that there's a game left on their schedule they have 0% chance of winning? I ain't buying that. So imagine if this team finished out 5-0. Imagine if they got everybody healthy and they finished out 5-0 and finished the year 9-3. I'd be really mad because that A&M game would still sting, because my 10-2 prediction would have been correct, but still, it's whatever. But still, they can do that. It's possible. It's not likely, but it's possible. And getting everybody healthy is crucial to this team and to this game against Auburn and everything. But that's what the bye week's for. Just get all of the type of medical attention and therapy, whatever. Like, give them all the Gatorades and just get them back to being healthy as possible. They might be able to do something with it. They might be able to turn it around. But this bye week could not come at a better time, and especially having some momentum after a win heading into that bye week, it's just crucial. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see how the season ends. I'm excited to see what they do in this final game stretch. And also, honestly, I'm excited to see them possibly finally beat Auburn, because I'm sick and tired of them losing to Auburn. They haven't beaten Auburn since 2015. And it's just been annoying because there's no reason for it, and get some revenge, man. Wouldn't that be a great thing to do on the road as well? But as we know, things happen in Auburn. But that's next week. This is bye week. We're resting too. We're having a good time with it as well. But I appreciate everybody listening in to the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at BuzzJohnNabors for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.